the workshop, actually. And so welcome to the Inner Child Workshop, or lecture. So we're going to talk today about the inner child, which I think is one of the critical, most important aspects, and we already had a child, aspect of basically of healing and of relationship. It's an effect which is huge on every area of life, and I'm going to explain why. And basically, it is one of the most important form of therapy I think exists on this planet. And I'm going to explain it in a few, maybe just in a short way, and then we're going to go maybe deeper into some more experiments. But so what is actually the inner child? The inner child is basically us when we were small, and it's like kind of a software. Like we buy a small computer. I don't know. There is like all these computer which are kind of small, but you can extend them and build. Buy more. I don't know, CPU, and then connect it to I don't know a printer, and connect it then to I don't know something else, bigger monitor and stuff. And this is how basically we evolve. We start only as the inner child in a way, but all the time as we grow up, there are more add-ons and more add-ons and more upgrades, and finally the inner child becomes just one part of what we are. But it's still a very important part because it's actually kind of our core. So, and if there is a problem with the inner child, usually we're going to have very big problem in something in our life. And these kind of problems, when we're going to talk about them, I will explain in I will go more into it and why they are formed actually. But basically the idea is that as we kind of upgrade our system and we grow and get more and more things, those parts that didn't get upgraded, didn't update. This, let's say, we started with a very simple computer which had Windows 1, and Windows 1 was working for us when we have simple computers. But then become really sophisticated computers, and if that really sophisticated computer is still running on Windows 1, that's a big problem. And a program that was not initially, if you want, got what it needs to update, to grow in a way, will kind of drag our whole system for our entire life. For example, I give an example. How is narcissistic personality is created? It's very, very simple. Every child is narcissistic. Every child needs, in its early stages, for his parents to serve him, basically. He needs to be the center of the world of at least his mother, and all he can do is ask, and the mother all the time have to give. And in a really early child level, he's like the mother is just a feeding station. So it's a very narcissistic situation. But if the mother is not able to give the child enough attention, love, nourishment, whatever she needs to give him, but it's mostly emotional energy, that part of the child will never grow. He will never go to the next stage in his evolution. And then what will happen is that this lacking of this part that needs that everybody will serve him will stay active. And then we'll have this adult with an adult brain that still need everybody to serve him one way or another. And usually this comes also with a very, very low self-esteem, because for a child, when he needs, I don't know, love, and he doesn't get love, doesn't matter what he gets. He can get tons of toys, he can get, I don't know, a lot of compliments, he can get something, but he doesn't get what he needs. So he feels he's not worthy of love. He thinks he doesn't have value. His parents didn't do enough just to feed what he needs, because work was more important, because, I don't know, fighting between the parents was more important, or something even worse, the parents were themselves narcissistic. They do reverse role. He was supposed to be the one who served them and feel their kind of lack of inner child love that they'd never had from their parents. They repeat the same pattern. We'll talk about patterns in a second. But basically, you'll have an adult brain, but with a maturity of a child. And what was very beautiful when he was 3 or 4, it's been very ugly when he's 25 or 30, because basically you get somebody who's very manipulative and basically try one way or another to make the whole world serve him. And usually because you can't really control the whole world, other adults, when that child will have his own children, then he'll have somebody he can really have control on, and then he will try to make his child basically his parent. He try to have what he called role reverse, and then he will try to make his child his parents. And narcissistic parents are actually have a lot of different strategies. I will say a few of them now, because you might recognize it. And it's very important, actually, when we're talking about narcissistic parents. It's the ultimate example, but every parent have a little bit of this, and I will explain why, unless he's a very aware parent. And it's very important to see what our parents did to us. So first we know how to deal, because it's not just our parents that are alive, it's the parental programs that now run in our system. And we want to know how it works, so we can kind of negate it. And also the relationship with our parents is very important to see what is really going there if you have bad relationship with our parents. And or some people are in denial, for example. Some people have good parents, good enough parents at least, so no problem, or there's a little problem. Some people are really in denial. Actually, when you have really horrible parents, then usually you sometimes be really in total denial and you think the parents are gods. And that's very dangerous, because that means you're going to be exactly like your parents. You're going to swallow all their corrupted values, and then you're going to be exactly like your parents. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about it. And because people think that only the child grow, but the parents also have to grow. For example, the way to be a parent to somebody who's 2 years old is very different than to be the parent of somebody who's 6 years old, or to be a parent of somebody who's 15 years old. But if your parent didn't grow from having a baby, seeing his child as a baby, and think all this he needs is feeding and things like that, and actually it's very safe. The parents have very low self-esteem, and he thinks that once anybody will have a choice, he will leave him, and he have this abandonment fear of abandonment is strong. He will want his child to always stay a baby, basically. Never leave the mother apron, because the child cannot run away, the child cannot choose even. And the child totally dependent on the adult. So some adults are very addicted to this feeling. They are the center of the world of somebody. This is actually the motivation. Like most rock stars, I don't know, pop stars, actors, they have a little bit of this something on the narcissistic spectrum. Because it's the same. Everybody are looking at me now. Everybody clapping to me. I'm the center of the world. That's kind of the feelings that you were lacking in a child, so you try to feel it from the outside. The problem is it never work. An adult, doesn't matter. You can see actors, all these great famous actors, Michael Jackson, I don't know what, who got all the love of all the world. He didn't feel even a little bit of the feeling of lacking of self-love, and then create huge self-destruction. When I talk about it, it's like having a bucket with a hole. Because actually, and this is one of the base elements in inner child therapy, you have to learn to be the adult, the beneficial adult that your parents could not be for you. Because nobody, including your older parents, after this stage cannot fill this place, this hole that you have inside, and only basically you can do it. Your adult that grow up, your inner parent actually can learn how to be the beneficial or healing power that can actually fill the hole that your inner child experience. So you can have the adoration of all the people, you can feel and control all your children, and you have 10 children, and you still feel nothing. You feel like you don't worth anything, that you are lacking of love. No love will really get deep in. You will like a little kind of a short satisfaction that you get, but then you lose it, and you will be in constant running after this validation, after this feeling of control, after like just covering this feeling of anxiety that, oh, everybody gonna abandon me. And some people can compensate. They can be really confident and really, I don't know, powerful and had all the titles in the world, but it's still, you can see that it's all motivated from this like really wounded inner child there. So it's all very sick, and eventually it's all going to collapse, because it's like a really sick basis of personality to build your life upon, and it can't really last long. I mean, and if it lasts and you become really famous, you become, I don't know, very famous, you become very all kind of things, actually, because there is such a cognitive dissonance, which means you feel inside like you're worth nothing, and you hide it, and you create this outer persona which is very charismatic and charming and whatever, but you feel it's just a lie. So the more actually people adore you and believe in your fake idea or fake identity, the more you feel this inner stress, and then you start sabotaging yourself. So you have this self-destruction, basically because this feeling of I'm kind of an imposter becomes stronger and stronger, and living all the time feeling like you're lying, feeling like in every moment you're going to be exposed and people are going to see your real you, is very strong. And eventually it's easier for you just to destroy yourself and at least live in the truth than keep on maintaining the lie. And it creates a lot of horrible strategies also in relationships. For example, in relationships, we usually don't attract the love that will make us happy, but the love that we repeat the way our parents treated us, or the model of parenthood that we see, the model of relationship they had, we repeat this model because this is what the programs that we got, that we learned in the beginning. And that what will happen is that unless a relationship will repeat the same type of suffering he had as a child, the way we are treated, and this is what we defined as our value, we feel very insecure. We cannot believe this love. So there is this, there are 7 strategies actually of how women, for example, stay forever princesses and then become queens, if you take the archetypes. I wrote an article about it. But for example, I give you one strategy like this. It's like based on Disney princesses because they are all archetypes. So for example, there is this Rapunzel, the princess in the high tower. This is the woman who actually, she might be very beautiful and charismatic and her persona is amazingly feminine and everything, but inside she feels she doesn't worth because this is how her parents treated her. So she always put a lot of tests. And every guy who tried to climb her tower on her hair, if you want, on her beauty, he climbed a tower and get there, he understands actually that this test eventually, she just will give him more and more tests. Because the tests are not really to check if he's serious, the tests are pathological. You can never really prove her that he really mean it and that really love her, because inside she doesn't believe it's possible for anybody to love her. So finally, when you have this core belief will always prove itself, which means then the guy will understand, wow, it's not really real tests, they are just pathological tests that I can never pass. And then he will leave her and then, oh, I prove he was like everybody else, he didn't really love me in a way. So actually what we do in many times in relationship, we try to fix our relationship with our parents through the relationship, but that can never work because our partner is not a therapist and it's not outside where the solution is. It's actually inside by actually, usually if it's really traumatic, we have to go back to where the child got the experience of I worth nothing, relive it with the interpretation of an adult, of self-love, and then have new conclusion about what is worthy, what is he worthy of love, is he worthy of value, is he worthy of taking place in the world. Like parents were like for example, they never had time for the child. They were kind of removed parents. So the child will be afraid to take space. He don't think he's worthy of taking space, for example. And then either he'll take too much space all the time, he'll take all the space because like it's a compensation mechanism, or he will be very afraid to really even know what he wants, what he needs. This is like the classic amapath narcissistic pattern. The child, because let's say the parent was very, very aggressive toward him and he had to take all the space, the parent, the child learned to survive by always sensing the adult much more than he senses himself, to the point that he loses even what he wants and what he feels even, just to feel the adult, always be kind of dancing the dance the adult want him to dance, always pleasing the adult. And that comes to a level in which he can sometimes really, really feel very well other people, but he doesn't even know what he wants, what he needs. He always kind of like a, chameleon, always adapt to whatever situation he is, and he actually don't even know who he is like this. So there is another symptoms that can come like this. Out of many, there are many pathologies that come from that age, and it's actually kind of really, really powerful because it's subconscious, it's like a shadow part. And it creates a GPS for what relationship we should suppose deserve to have, about to have, how life should be. Because the mother or the father in early childhood, for example, they were like not just people, they were the whole world, they were gods in a way. They're so huge. For example, the opinion was everything. They were they looked to us as divine, not as humans. And then it's actually, that's where I go when therapy actually meets spirituality. Because on some levels, you can only heal with transpersonal psychology. What is transpersonal psychology? It's not just about your adult self becoming the beneficial adult that your parent didn't know how to be. Because the parents in early age were gods, in a way. The mother was Kali. She was like, if she was a bad mother, she was like Kali. She was a destructive goddess. That on every little thing you don't know why, she cut your head in a way. And then you feel like hopelessness, and hopelessness is the worst feeling for a child because you have nothing you can do. So the child developed blame, and then because he blamed himself, because blaming, even that he didn't do anything, it was only the mother all the time. Blame give you the feeling that you are not hopeless, that you can do something about it, even if it's really crazy. But then when you live in total blame on things you didn't do, it creates a whole horrible type of perception of the world, understanding what is the world is. That the world is very judgmental and that you don't worthy of anything. And for every little mistake you do, you deserve the horrible ultimate punishment, stuff like this. And you live with this. This is how life's supposed to be. And if life doesn't function with this, you become really anxious and you're afraid you create disasters for yourself one after the other. And that's actually a very horrible program to have in a way. That's another situation like this. And so a lot of what we experience as adult, even though it's, oh, well, I left the childhood before, far behind me, actually still manage us in a lot of ways, in many deep ways. And when I see, as a life coach, as a transpersonal, so I go to the transpersonal psychology. When this is the situation that it's very early childhood and the mother is goddess, it's not just reconnecting with your adult self, which can fulfill the personality of the mother. It's also connecting with the goddess. This is already spiritual. How is your connection with life? How is your connection with Shakti, with the goddess? Because the mother was the goddess, and you felt that the whole idea of the universe, model of the universe, is the universe is angry. The universe hates me. The universe is after me. So you have to kind of recalibrate sometimes your whole relationship with the feminine energy if you're a man, or with the masculine energy if you're a woman had a really bad father, for example, or even not such a bad father, just like unskillful father. And that actually takes a lot for this to happen. But it is like necessary, because a lot of people go to a lot of things, but they don't search where the key is. The key was lost in the darkness, very deep in our subconscious. And we look in the light through understanding, through behavioral therapy, for stuff that is very nice, but just like putting Band-Aid on a wound, which is very deep. And unless we go deep to where the wound is and take the past out and put the bullet out, it's not really going to heal, basically. And that's painful, because we want to touch sometimes very, very painful aspect of our childhood. And that can be pretty serious. So I will just mention a few strategies parents use, so you kind of understand what I'm talking about. So a few strategies parents usually use to kind of control, manipulate, shrink, move in a child in all kind of ways they want, because actually they don't have patience or tolerance or resources or whatever to deal with us as children. Is, for example, is making us feeling small. You are just a baby. What do you understand about life? So the answer, actually, a child maybe don't understand about astrophysics, but about himself, he know the best. He's like a plant that have the instruction in it. You know, if you water him with acid, he will die. If you water him with, I don't know, whatever in permaculture they teach us, he will strive, right? But the child know inside what it is. And actually, children have huge intuition. They make an experiment, for example, in nutrition. They put children that are very young, that are not yet, the setting was not yet destroyed, and they told them, choose whatever food you have. You have everything, every different food you have on the floor, or whatever. Or they gave the good dietitians to create a diet for the children. The children who just chose, they were healthier than the children that go to the dietitian. Because this is kind of intelligent within the system. Children have this, the clothes of the king, the king is naked. Children are not yet learned how to be Hippocratic, how to create masks, how to create manipulation. So actually they're very simple, and sometimes they are much more true, definitely into the inner world, to what they need, and what type of love they need in order to grow. But a parent that is unable, lazy, don't want to make the sacrifice to give the children what he needs. Let's say a parent is very much into career and having a big business, a mother, for example, but it's not comfortable because she has to sacrifice and give quality time to the child. She will kind of try to train the child. Okay, you will have lacking of quality time with me, and you always miss me, but I buy you a lot of toys. That never works. So you have both a spoiled child. You should actually make much more damage, because then she have a really spoiled child who is very materialistic, and she also have a child which has a huge neglect in his emotional capability, and he stay kind of really never grow from being really childish in a way. So you did double damage in a way. So it doesn't work this way, but you don't do it. But one of the manipulation of parents, you are too small to understand. What do you understand? The other part is like making you feel great. You are bigger than life. You are my angel. So what does it mean you are my angel? You don't have needs of yourself. You don't supposed to have needs because you are so great and beautiful angel. You are only supposed to fill my needs. So it's like seeing you not as what you are as a child, but kind of giving you a grander role. But that grander role means actually that you are not allowed to express what you really need because you are not an angel. You are just a child that needs stuff from life in order to grow, like a little plant that needs a lot of nourishment in order to grow. And then he will give fruits, but it's not the time. The time when he's a children is to get all the nourishment, to get all the thing, not to give necessarily. The mother in a spiritual way is actually giving a lot. If she's a good mother, the universe works through her for a Vishuddha, if you want, for a throat chakra. That's a very interesting connection of the throat chakra. She's only feeding and the child only receiving in the beginning, and then it changes slowly, slowly. But actually she is nourished like you take a hose, you take a pipe, and a pipe that deliver water is never wet, is never dry, obviously. So actually, if the mother is not selfish and she's not like cut herself from her body for nature, for all the things that postmodern society did to women, and expectations that you have from women that they will not be, that motherhood is just like a side job, it's just like a hobby, it's not like the serious thing that you have to, like, it's a profession basically, and something she have to learn how to do very deeply. Then basically, neither she or the baby benefit or the child benefit from it. Actually, become a very destructive force. So making the child feeling he's an angel, he's bigger than life, he doesn't have to have needs just his mother savior kind of thing, it's also very horrible. Then it's your duty. You are my child, I grow you, it's your duty to do this and that. I can treat you like shit, but it's your duty to treat me well and respect me because I'm your mother, I'm your father. That's another way to manipulate, not to listen, not to see the child as an adult. That's very typical to mothers that really like the children to be small, and they didn't allow him to grow because growing means he can choose, he can go away. It has bigger needs that the mother doesn't know how to feel, and she does want to grow and learn. So she just try to contract the child to the box that is comfortable for him to be. So it's your duty, for example. Responsibility for the mother happiness. Because of you, I didn't sleep all night. That happened when a mother, again, instead of taking responsibility on her happiness, and she have to let go of this really thick connection, sometimes feel something, I don't know, her lacking of social trust, her lacking to be able to open to people, that you find somebody that she can kind of really have this symbiotic with, but which is not actually, he's a child which actually get what he needs in a way. So all of this, we have actually a good example of how our child actually called to the mother. He needed attention, and even the mother, for a second, she's not there. And he said before that he was playing with all the other people. It was cool, but when the mother was actually focused on somebody else, immediately he won the mother, because it's not about even the attention, but feeling I'm number one. I'm coming first. So it's actually, when you don't get it, your whole sense of value, then for your whole life, you learn I'm not coming first. I'm not having, like, there is much more important things in me in life, and then it's living in neglect. And actually, the part of you that, no, I just should come first, going to the shadow, is suppressed, but he's going to take his food in some manipulative ways that sometimes you yourself will not be aware of. And especially when you have children, and especially in relationship. You find that you project all these things in relationship. For example, a mother that that will be like this, she was not number one. She will never say her needs. She will never say, I need from you to do this, I need from you to do that. And she will kind of sacrifice her life, in a way. But then when she doesn't get it, because people don't guess what she needs, she'll be very violent and be very destructive, for example. It will come as rage, it will come as destruction, for example. So, and then she will do much more damage. And then obviously people in her world, her partner, her children, will be alienated. They don't want to listen to her needs, to feel what she needs. And then we come an even bigger cycle, a worse cycle of, okay, people don't see my needs, and I will sacrifice myself, so I accept them to sacrifice themselves for me. I will not live the life I want, but then I will not let them ever live the life they want. And if ever they are happy, which is not dependent on me, and try to break free from my grip, I will cut their heads in a way. I will bind them. I will make them baby again. I will keep them in a cage, and will never let them fly. And they have to, besides what I feed them, I don't know, bird food every day or something, and thank me, but and forget about being their own bird. I save them for life, kind of thing. So you have a lot of these pathologies that comes when this stage of growth was neglected. And there are a lot of other things like comparison, always comparing to a better child out there. You are never good enough, and I'm the only one who can give you approval that you are good. So you have to always serve me to get this approval that you are good and worthy of being loved. There are a lot of different techniques. I wrote a book about it in which I specify 16 techniques like the parents do. But I think you got the point, right? So parents are can be very manipulative. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about stages of development, and then we go.
Can I
Then go.
ask a question about
Yes,
this before?
yes.
Um, Maybe you talk about it and I miss it because of the language, but what do you think about situation when the mother give too much love
Okay, what?
and no boundaries?
Where the mother gives too much love and no boundaries, it's usually a tragedy. I'm loving like this, and total love, but that's actually also a form of control. A good mother will give their children boundaries, because actually when the children and don't have boundaries, they actually feel insecure. When they don't have role in life, they can't earn their living. They can't feel that they are good from themselves. And then it's actually another manipulation. It's like being a mother is not a popularity context. That's also something. It's also a form of manipulation. I'm the good mother at giving without boundaries. That's not a popularity context. In being a mother, part of love is knowing to set boundaries, knowing to set when the child deserves love or when it's not. It's also education kind of thing. But it has to come, it's all about the motivation. You can control a person by it's not really over love, because it's much harder to say to a child, till then, now you're doing bad thing, or now you put the house on fire, go to your room now, or something, then basically, oh, it's okay, just burn the house, just do, I'm a loving mother. That's not good motherhood. That's basically a mother that is very insecure and she thinks motherhood is like being a pop star, a popularity context. And that's actually not real love. Real love is actually doing the right thing when it's hard. And for some mothers, it's hard to give a lot of love, and for somebody it's hard to control or create limitation to her love. So it'd be the right amount. It's like a plant. You water it too much, he'll die. You water it too little, he will die. So a good gardener who really loves his plant will not overflow his garden just, oh, I want to love them like this. This is not the right way to do it, and it's actually comes from negligence. It's actually another form of control, basically. Because when the flowers are like overwatered and can never grow and can never be independent and can never live, in a way as well. So it's just a form of control at the end of the day. And as I said, mother, because it's so deep, it's usually shadow part. Mother can think they try to do good. And for example, a lot of mothers that have a neglective parent themselves, they will try to be overgiving, helicopter moms, for example. But actually, they will do just the same. It will be just the same result and just the same thing, because they didn't really change the core idea that is behind it. The program that was behind it is basically, I don't have any self-value. If my child would have a choice, he will leave me. So I need to keep him small and keep the connection of child-mother, which is basic, because a baby can never run away from the mother, in a way. And the baby is always satisfied for just these material things that the mother is easy to give. I don't want to grow and understand what it means to be a mother for an older child or even to a teenage, and so on. And then it becomes just another form of manipulation, which is not the one before, but actually it becomes more deadly. Because a simple, for example, narcissistic mother, it says she's like a Napoleon kind of person. She's always domineering, you're never good enough, she always has something to do, she always like a backseat driver, who always criticize you and stuff like this, cutting your wings, and always make you need her approval. That's simple mother, simple bad mother. But if you have a second stage of this, so it's a mother who doesn't want to look like she is a bad mother, but she still needs the same control. She needs the same control. She will hide it. She'll be over good. When she'll be around other people, she kind of look like the perfect mother, but usually she'll be neglective when the child and her are alone, or she'll be destructive, or then she'll like, even from a shadow standpoint, she will try to do the opposite, but she will not be able to control herself, and then she take exactly what her mother did to her in a way which is more insidious, and then the child will be more isolated and have less ability to get help and support from the world, and then she usually will do something which is called gaslighting. Do you know what it is? When the kid, doesn't matter what happened, when he's a teenager even, he will say, you were a bad mom, and then she say, you are crazy, you are stupid, you imagine everything, I'm a perfect mother, I always took the stars out of the sky to give you, I was a perfect mother and there's something wrong with you, basically. And that's kind of, and she make the child doubt his own perception of reality and think he's crazy when he comes with really criticism, and she will never be able to see her fault and what she actually do, because that means admitting that she is a bad mother just like her mother, and she was just like her mother, and that's like the worst thing she wants to see, and that will kind of crash her ego and identity, but she's actually that. And then she'll go on and deny, like a witch hunt, just destroy. Everybody will point, look what you're doing to this child, look what you're doing to me. She'll try to destroy that person, that or the child, the part in the child is a mirror. She break all the mirrors that try to mirror her that, because this is what she's most afraid for her identity. And that's horrible. Actually, it's much worse than normal narcissistic mother. The improved narcissistic mother is much horrible when she just take it. You're much more smart and know how to hide it, and it's much harder to fix it actually afterward. So that's what happened with overlap, but everything is to himself. Each pathology, it's really a structure, and you really have to see it carefully to see exactly what is the dynamics. But it's so common, because when I, for example, see Indian people today, the hands are very simple. Their structure of personality is very simple. I say the hands because I can identify personality through looking at people's hands. And you can really see when you can take an experiment, you can look at the hand of like common Indian person, you see it's so simple, no lines almost. And when you see a Western, it's full of lines, full of things that actually connect to the brain, because we are so much neurotic and complicated. Because basically Indian mothers are still simple, most of them. They still connect to the instincts, they're still connecting to motherhood, so even if they are very poor and have less resources, they are much better in nourishing and being mothers, knowing, feeling what the child needs and give it to him. So the children grow with much less issues. And that's also the thing with the spirituality. When you see older spirituality, like 2,000 years old spirituality like Buddhism, they don't even talk about therapy. And the reason that it didn't need much therapy at the time, because people were kind of simple, but modern age create new type of people that are much smarter than average people in the past, but also much more screwed up. So this is why therapy and spirituality have to come together, because, for example, you can't sublime, transform, elevate, enlighten part of your personality that's still stuck in trauma, still stuck in really neurotic shadow denial, for example. And that's what happens. You have parts that are in shadow denial and you don't recognize that are you and don't want to see that are in you. You can have 80% of your personality become like space age enlightened, but 20% of your personality will stay like stone age, childish, narcissistic, sometimes stuck, sometimes really polluted and distorted and perverted, because when you have the water and you lock them and they can't flow, it becomes really dirty water, really polluted water. So the idea is that then you create something which is really much worse than ever before in a way. And unless you first heal the wounds and make it at least functional and part of your personality, doesn't matter how ugly and how